All right, welcome back. So point of this video is to kind of walk you through the meatier stuff of the unit. So if you click on Julius Caesar Play, I'm just going to run through some of the important information here. First, I'm going to go through the reading schedule. So the schedule for this unit, it's a 4-week breakdown day by day. Also contains links to supplementary resources such as summaries, study guides, the audiobook, and the film version. So let's click on that. Scroll down here. All right, so I've given you some information. These are your suggested breakdowns for how to keep up with your reading. Remember to work on the tracking chart and logbook while you read. I will show you that afterwards. Important to consider, make sure that you're considering reading summaries of each act before you read the actual act, and then watch the film version after each act, just to encourage some retention, and retention just meaning to encourage your understanding and retain what was happening in terms of plot. Okay. The sections of the film are broken down on the next page by act, okay? And I've also got links to the Play with Modern Translation, the film, audiobook, etc. So, breakdown, first 2 days you're working on Scavenger Hunt. The next day you're going to begin reading Act 1 along with your tracking chart and logbook. Again, tracking chart can be completed in groups up to 4. Logbook can only be completed solo. Gives you some due dates in highlighted in yellow. I've told you when there isn't school. This is a virtual check-in to be decided. I've tentatively set it there. It might change. Okay, I've given you 2 catch-up days at the end of this, and technically I guess it's 3 because there's nothing slotted there. Part A assignments will be due on this date. Part B and C assignments will be due on June 1st. Okay, so if you scroll down to the resources, this is super important for you guys to see. The lit charts, Shakespeare translation is a document I'm going to open for you on D2L after this. Spark Notes, No Fear Shakespeare translation is just another version of a translation. Study guide, this is super useful. Act and scene summaries, character descriptions, breakdown of theme, important quotes, etc. It's really important to use resources during the Shakespeare unit because it's going to be a little tricky. And that's okay, you're just challenging yourself. Film version, there's a hyperlink to the YouTube 1970s version. I've actually broken down by act what minutes associate with that act. So that'll be helpful for you. I really, really, really recommend watching each act after you finish reading it. I also recommend while you're reading, if you're not comfortable with the language, I really would recommend listening to it be read by somebody who knows the meter and the style and the pronunciation. Then that way you're actually hearing it authentically. Supplementary, Thug Note Summary and Analysis. This is a video of a guy just kind of breaking down summary, character, analyzing motifs, themes, etc. However, major spoilers. It tells you the entire plot. So if you don't want to know the entire plot, don't watch it. However, the thing is, I think it's important to, or almost useful, to know the plot ahead of time so that you can better understand it. Understanding stage directions. This just breaks down kind of the common phrases that they use in stage directions if you're not familiar with drama. Okay, and we will go back. All right, dramatis personae. It's just a fancy way of saying the characters of the play. This just breaks down, lists the different characters who are in this and who they are. Okay, so that's important to read through first so that you know what's going on, you know who's wife and who's, against who and etc. Okay, just very brief. Back to there. This is the play in translation. So it's a line-by-line translation. On the left side here is the original language. On the right side is the translation to modern English. Okay, so if you look at the top there, it's broken down by act and scene. So Shakespearean plays are broken down by 5 acts, and then there are scenes within that. When I referred to stage directions previously, anything in these italics here are called stage directions. And those are there for the actors to know when to enter stage, when to exit, when they're speaking aside. Whenever you see aside, it means they're speaking to themselves. Just sort of cues for the actors and like this, ultimately for you to understand, right? Okay, so when you're using quotes in your assignments, the line numbers are here very lightly in gray. Now, it's only numbered every 5, so you have to do the math and count in between. Okay, you'll see footnotes where they kind of explain allusions or references to the context of that day as well. Again, Act 1, Scene 2, so this is a new breakdown. And then you'll always see stage directions with every new scene because it sets you up for what's going on in that scene. Again, I do recommend reading summaries on sparknotes.com of acts and scenes before you read them, so you have a gist of what's going on and you can use your critical thinking skills from that point. Next are the assessments. Okay, so click here. This is the logbook questions. Again, I've put a link there for you to copy the doc into your own drive. You have to just go File, Make a Copy. I've got due dates on all the assignments here. Basically, there are 10 questions. For each act, you do a minimum of 1 of these questions. So total, you'll have 5 entries. You can also, along with writing, you can also doodle or draw or sketch or include pictures, totally up to you. These questions are just, the purpose of these questions is for you to investigate and interact with the text in a deeper way so that you can gain some attention, okay? So that's the first assessment that you'll be doing as you read. So you do that every time you read an act, you're plugging one of those responses in there. Tracking chart template, this is the one that you can work on in groups, and this is the larger assessment. So if we scroll through this, I've got a breakdown of what the assessments are in the unit as well. Content within, so there's going to be character trait tracking, motivations, motifs, theme chart, and plot. If you are working with others, which I recommend because it is a lot of work, please make sure that you've associated yourselves each with a color of text. And I know it's highlighted here, but I don't want you to type in highlighted text. I'd like you to just change the color to whichever color you want. So if you're working in groups, change your names here, change your colors if you want, whatever. Okay, so character trait chart. Using the chart below, identify 3 character traits for each major character and 1 for each minor character. Then you have to use a passage from the play as supporting evidence with an explanation. I did the first one for you, and as you can see, so Caesar is a major character. That means you'll have to do 3 traits, which are descriptive adjectives about that character. Okay. Character motivations, so you need to identify 1 motivation for each major character. These are the characters listed. Motivations are just what is driving them to complete their actions, what's their goal, etc. Okay, first one's done for you again. Remember, citation is act, scene, lines, so you just put number 2, dot, 1, dot, that means it's act 2, scene 1, and then lines, that should be 1 to 13. That's a typo. I will fix that. Motif tracking chart. So motifs, if you remember, are repeating patterns that happen throughout the play. I've listed the motifs specifically. Blood, pain, and death, pretty obvious. Those ones, if there's anything to do with blood or pain or death, that's what that is. War, again, could be associated with this as well, but war is pretty straightforward. I think there's 2 wars that take place. Tyranny, ambition, and power. The mistreatment or abuse of power. Unchecked ambition, what happens when you're so ambitious that you lose sight of your morals, and power that's unchecked as well. Power-hungry men. Signs and omens, those are just like bad signs. So that could be weather, it could be someone warning you about something, it could be a bad dream, it could be animals acting up, whatever. Fate is just this idea of, do we have control over our own actions, or is everything up to fate? And then appearance versus reality is just that idea of duplicitousness, or being two-faced, being a backstabber, and a different person up front. Okay, the easiest ones to track are probably war, blood, pain, and death. So number 1, 2, and 6, I would say. But the most interesting ones to track, I'd say, were 4, 6, and 3. But again, you choose 2 of those motif patterns to trace throughout the play, and you'll need quotations from each act in order to show that this motif is present throughout the whole text. Then you'll connect it to one of the themes. You should have a minimum of 5 entries and quotes per motif, which is a total of 10. I've also listed themes here. So if you look at my example, I've used the motif appearance versus reality. I've got a quote there, my citations over here. My related theme, many things and people are not what they seem to be. Okay, and then my explanation just explains this quotation supports the pattern of appearance versus reality because it foreshadows the duplicitous nature of many of the characters in the play. Okay, super basic. And then you would put your second one there. Theme chart. We've done this before. Reminder that themes are not one word. They are a statement about what we are taught about that word. Okay, got an example there. This doesn't have anything to do with Julius Caesar. I just made it up. So you make 3 statements. Plot points. There's an image below. This is your Shakespearean tragedy plot points. It's slightly different than a normal story arc, so review this, and then you apply those terms to the play. So you find a description of the moment and evidence using a passage for each of the 7 components. All right, let's go back. So that's it. That is it for part A. Thanks for listening.